and good morning. Today is Father's Day in the United States anyway. I'm not sure when other countries celebrate it, or even if they celebrate it. I'm assuming they do. In any case, an outing is planned this afternoon with my children and grandchildren, which is going to be very nice. And I am going to keep the title that I selected yesterday, which is "Not all fathers are insensitive males." Today is Father's Day in the USA. Not sure about the rest of the world. As for me, I know I was not a perfect father. Yes, I made mistakes. There were times I overreacted, doing things I am not proud of in retrospect. Some things I was not proud of only seconds after I did them. Such is life for the most part. Oh, such is life. Let me read it the way that I wrote it. For the most part, I have forgiven myself. Mostly, I was young and inexperienced, lacking the wisdom that comes with age, sometimes. As I look back at the founding of this nation, I must say I am proud of the forefathers who created the blueprint for this nation. No, they weren't perfect either, yet they established principles of just and lawful governance, which, if followed, would liberate the world. While I greatly honor and respect the divine feminine, I also honor the divine masculine. If the world is ever to grow up, we need strong and sensitive males and females working together, cooperating to co-create a world that works for everyone. I'm taking out a word that I didn't read because I don't think it belongs there. Anyway, I must admit that this morning and before I went to bed last night, this topic was not what was on my mind. Last night I watched the first half of the movie from 31 years ago, Gandhi, starring Ben Kingsley. We're going to watch the second half of the movie this coming Thursday night here at the Mary Horgan Center for those people that didn't stay till 11 o'clock watching the entire movie last night. And I must admit that as I was inspired when I watched the movie 30 years ago in 1983, I was even more so inspired last night just watching the first half. I remember the lady that I watched the movie with in 1983, and she said, "I suspect you are an awful lot like Mr. Gandhi, a very principled man." And watching it with eyes that are 30 years older than they were back then, if eyes age. Some of my principles are still there, intact. And I don't have as much courage to take beatings as Mr. Gandhi did. Anyway, fathers. I did reflect back on a couple of times that I actually reacted by, in one case, kicking, in another case, hitting my children, son, stepson. And I'm not proud of that. As I was younger, I had a pretty bad temper. And sometimes it got the better of me. It even happened once. Let's see, that would have been 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, which surprised me that when I caught immediately and apologized immediately, but I let somebody get to me. So temper is a thing that I've had to deal with in my life, more so when I was younger than now. I don't know that it'll ever happen again. I'm not sure. I can't say. I was surprised when it happened the last time in 2006, actually it was. In any case, it's important that I forgive myself and that we each forgive ourselves, because we've all done things that we're not proud of. And being male didn't come with an instruction manual. Truthfully, neither did being female come with an instruction manual. And we learn oftentimes by the mistakes that we make. And I'm no exception. And I appreciated Mr. Gandhi's humility. And I appreciate, as I said in the blurb, what our forefathers gave us in the United States. No, it was not perfect. No, the people did not sign the contract, except I did, and others have. We've signed the contract in retrospect, because the Bill of Rights and the limited government are principles that are important in our day and age in 2013. They've always been important. But like the British Empire in South Africa in Gandhi's earlier life after he became a lawyer, and then when he returned to India, the empire was very unjust, prejudicial. It carried the consciousness of the people. And the final scene in part 1 of the movie was a massacre. It looked like they had hired mercenary troops from China to kill the Indians. I don't know if that was true, that they were from China, but they appeared that way to me in the movie, and it was a movie. In any case, our governments are no better than the British Empire was at that time between the world wars, which I think is when that massacre would have taken place. And we've never gotten it perfect yet. And the patriarchy that has risen up has lacked the feminine nurturing and the feminine compassion and the motherly touch. But many males, including myself, have recaptured some of that sensitivity. And we've honored within ourselves the feminine aspect, balancing it with the masculine aspect, so that we can have harmony most of the time in our lives, when we don't forget in moments and don't overreact at times. You know, someone sent me a thing yesterday of "we are always in control." Now, I totally disagree with that statement. As humans, we are rarely ever in control. The only thing that we can control is our reactions and our responses to what happens to us. Control is an illusion from the human perspective. And no human is in control totally of his or her own life. And we need to be sensitive to that fact. And we need to be sensitive to the fact that our consciousness oftentimes precipitates or brings out in us the circumstances that we need to see ourselves more deeply. And fathers and mothers, men and women, need to be aware of this, because we are changing the world. And the principles of the Republic given to people in the United States from our forefathers, those principles are principles that we need today to reestablish governments that serve the people, governments of, by, and for the people, rather than of, by, and for corporations. Governments themselves are corporations. And when you only focus on the bottom line, when you only focus on profit, you create a slavery system, which is what the One People's Public Trust revealed earlier part of this year, that we live in a slavery system. And because of another lawyer, Miss Heather, that slavery system was foreclosed upon in the very documents, the Uniform Commercial Code, the very code by which the world's commerce is run, by which the world runs. But it needs to change. Empires are always unjust. Empires are always insensitive. And they are run by people, men and sometimes women, that lack the sensitivity to do the right thing. Our forefathers gave us principles. Mr. Gandhi lived by principles. I choose to live by principles. Many others are choosing principles that work. Principles of humility, principles of vulnerability and honesty, principles of compassion and cooperation. Mr. Gandhi wanted to create a nation where Christians and Jews and Muslims and Hindus and Buddhists could all live together and coexist peacefully, and Sikhs and Jains and others that were in that area. He had a vision, and I have a vision. I've had a vision for a long time of a world that works for each and every person that's in the world. A world where there is justice, because there can be no peace without justice, without the rule of law that everybody has to obey, and nobody gets away with disobeying the law like our leaders do far too often in every country, on every continent around the world. The leaders get away with it, and the patriarchy still is there. But as I said yesterday, the divine feminine is showing up, and we need that so desperately. We need to bring Earth into balance, to protect the Earth, to rejuvenate the planet, and to rejuvenate humankind and all creation upon the planet, to bring it back into harmony, back into homeostasis, back into a balance that allows us to see ourselves more clearly and not have to suffer the abuse that Mr. Gandhi and others suffered in South Africa and in India and in the United States and any place where freedom has raised its head. There's always been a backlash by insane people that want to keep the old system going. The old system is unsustainable in our world. Our method of finance, our method of governance is absolutely crazy, absolutely oppressive. It's a system of domination that has to end. And it's my job, as long as I'm here and as long as I have breath, to speak out about the injustice and to speak out what needs to be fixed. And yes, it's the geopolitical and economic system that I'm looking at, but it is also consciousness. It is also our awareness that we are part of an interconnected web of life, and that what we do to anyone, we do to ourselves. There is no escaping that to anyone, with anyone, who has awakened to the fact of the oneness of life. May this Father's Day be a day that you reflect on that oneness. It's not about countries or boundaries or borders. It's not about religion or ideologies. It's about truth. The truth is we are alive. We've been given the gift of life. We've been given the gift of greater awareness because of the internet and because of people being willing to go on the line, put their lives on the line, put their freedom on the line, and stand up for truth. I hope that you decide to join us, because one by one we are changing the world. One by one we are making a difference. One by one we are replacing the patriarchy with not a matriarchy, but a balanced, cooperative, synergistic venture that transforms us and the world that we live in. That's my vision for Father's Day 2013. And I thank you for listening. And I send you love. Namaste.